Hey everybody, welcome to Real Difference Film School, the show that teaches indie filmmakers like you how to make your film and a real difference. I'm your host Josiah, and I am here with an incredible guest, Chase Crawford. Welcome to the show, Chase, actor and newly producer as well of 3 feature films in 18 months. I'm so excited. There's just so much here to dive into. This guy is a Sundance and TIFF alum. There's so much here to dive into, so many questions I want to ask. But first of all, Chase, just welcome to the show. Thank you for joining us here today.
Of course, it's an honor and pleasure. I would love to start off by thanking the Academy. Uh, couldn't be without them. Yeah, thanks for having me, man.
Absolutely, absolutely. So glad to have you. So glad to have you. So obviously starting out as an actor, you've, a wide range of experience in working with both commercial and narrative directors. So let's get really practical with this here from the get-go. What are some of the most helpful things that directors have either said to you or done to kind of get the best performances possible from you? And it might even have been from like your co-stars or things like that. Like what are some of the best things that you've seen directors do to get good performances?
Have a plan. Like that's the number one thing.
Mm.
Because, you start out and you're just taking everything that comes your way and you end up on a set that you're not making any money on and there's like no shot list and like there's it's like you don't realize how bad it is in the moment until like you're working on a more organized set like 3 years from then. But yeah, that's if you don't have a plan, that's a good place to start. Um, yeah, I think after that, it's gonna be for me, I just act like the camera's not there. It's like
Mm.
I'm shooting a reality show as this character, and I just gotta focus on what the conversation that's happening in the script is. And 99% of the time, the script doesn't involve breaking that wall. So, yeah, just acting like the camera isn't there. And then like as far as like other actors go, like they should come prepared too. I've been in like too many situations where people are jamming the script on the drive to the set, and it's like, dude, did you
Yeah.
think about maybe taking this seriously so that like all of
Right.
us do
Right.
well? Because when someone else comes unprepared, it hurts the other
Mm.
actors who came prepared. And it just it makes for a bad project. So yeah, I think that
Absolutely.
those are like some little takeaways from that.
For sure. No, that's definitely some awesome insight. I mean, coming prepared, that's obviously, I was just last week, on last week's episode, I was sitting here with director Sylvia Wolf-Bush, and he was also talking about how, as a director, one really needs to be the most prepared person on set. So I
Mhm.
think that's, something so important, and great to hear as a takeaway there too, that, it's really good to have a plan and to have everything, especially with everybody else kind of showing up to make your vision a reality. One needs to do that justice and being the most prepared person there. I think that's definitely some great advice you got there, Chase.
For sure. Like someone like Silvio, he goes by
Mhm.
3 names, so that means that
Mhm.
he's really serious. That's
Oh yeah, oh
something
yeah.
to also take note in. If I go by Chase Alexander Crawford one day,
Mm.
that means I'm really serious.
Something
So
everybody's paying attention. Absolutely.
yeah.
That's awesome. Yeah, one step closer to thanking the Academy, right? If you've got that, once you've reached those three
Yeah.
names,
Once
then
you go
you're.
by those names, it's game over for everyone
Oh
else.
yeah. All right, well, transitioning here to the next question, films that go on to premiere at Sundance and TIFF, that's what every filmmaker dreams of. I mean, I think I'm speaking for everybody, all the filmmakers watching this as well. That's kind of what everybody dreams of, is this kind of stereotypical Sundance premiere, TIFF premiere. And you've had the honor of being inside some of those projects. So
Yeah.
I'd love to hear what you think. What sets apart a Sundance or TIFF selection from all the other stuff on the indie circuit? I mean, there are lots of good, even great films, but what makes one worthy of one of these A-list fests?
I mean, as like shallow as it sounds, now it's almost entirely about money because you have
Mm.
to get the right players involved. I think you will see some outliers of that equation where like someone made something for $100,000 and shot it in 2 weeks and it was just the best thing ever. But those days are like kind of almost gone. Like you have to go through like years of like raising and getting the right people attached and you know,
Hmm.
it's not just we made a movie on no money. It's not like the days of Clerks anymore. That's for sure.
Hmm.
Um, I think, right now, specifically what I'm going after as a producer are um, like producing more pilots because
Hmm.
statistically that's the best possibility of getting in.
Wow.
Um, it's, usually, I don't want to say across the board, but usually cheaper to shoot a pilot than a feature. And shorts are just too shorts you can get in making something with no money and no
Hmm.
stars in it, but it's like what is it? Less than 0.5% of a chance of getting in. I mean, it's impossible to
Hmm.
stand out. Um, so yeah, for anyone trying to make something specifically to get into Sundance, which I wouldn't recommend in the first place,
Yeah.
making a pilot would probably be your bet. Pilot or the virtual reality category. They're just
Hmm.
too it's just not dominated yet.
So I guess things that are like kind of the new frontiers of filmmaking, things that
Exactly.
where there's still a lot, a bit more space maybe than in shorts or even features now. Where it's getting a little bit more, a little bit more noisy. So what are some of those things that you think are like really important? You're talking about like having the right people attached to it. Do you mean like name talent, or what would what
For
would
sure.
that entail?
100% name talent. Yeah, I mean, you can't really go more into it than that, and that could take a week. It could take a year. A lot of people try for a month and then they give up and just cast whoever, which is,
Hmm.
that's totally a viable option. There's great films that have been made with, you know, very talented actors. But if you're chasing a name, it's definitely be prepared to buckle in for a pretty long ride.
Hmm. How do you approach that as a producer?
Really, just it's all about connections and relationships. So
Hmm.
cold emailing is not going to work in this world. Really, you kind of have to have a warm lead there, someone
Hmm.
really like opening the door for you if you are trying to get somewhere like that. Um, but yeah, realistically, if you're fully funded and you come with money, you can usually get some type of submission list from an agency. Um, I would recommend that dollar amount be $5,000 or more for not a ton of work, especially if they have to
Hmm.
come out to wherever you are. Um, yeah, you just have to be
Hmm.
smart with your offers. So yeah, it's really like stuff that you can only really learn by experience. Um,
Hmm.
and that can be a good thing for some people and a not good thing for some people. So if you're in a rush, you're in the wrong place because this is a very long, like it takes
It's a waiting game for
years
sure.
from shooting to anyone gets to see it usually for features. So yeah,
Hmm. Yeah. No, I mean that's yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think that's the reality that I think a lot of people go into a little bit starry-eyed and don't, really see in that sense the full picture. I mean, I'm sure that you'd agree with this. Feel free to correct me if I'm wrong here, but I would think as somebody who kind of has an opportunity that kind of shows up from the middle of nowhere, wouldn't you say that it's kind of also the connections that maybe kind of the unexpected things that kind of lead to some of these bigger adventures, these bigger, collaborators and stuff. So I mean, would you agree with that? That's just kind of you
totally.
you, you never know who you're going to run into. That's actually that's going to have that connection, a friend of a friend of a friend that's going to be able to greenlight your project, or have somebody they know. Oh yeah, I know so and so. They can be in your project, or you know.
Yeah, I mean the last film that I shot in October, it was literally we had he had posted something on Facebook looking for recommendations, and we got to
Hmm.
talking, and one thing led to another. A week later, I signed on to produce the film
Hmm.
because of a Facebook post, right? So it's like
Nice.
it's really one of those things where you always have to keep your head on the swivel. Can't really necessarily disregard anyone off the bat. Um, so, I mean, that's the thing about social media. It makes the world so much smaller. It's super
Hmm.
crazy the connections that can come from social. But I think that there's another art in getting out there somewhere like Sundance, going out there with a box full of business cards and just really trying to make some, not just impressions, but connections from something like that.
That's a really cool strategy too. I hadn't really thought about that. Would you recommend something like that for somebody who doesn't really have any connections, who wants to get into that? Just going there and just kind of meeting people and getting
I
to
mean,
know
that's what
network
I
that
did.
way?
Yeah, that's what I did. I went with a box full of business cards and I came back with none. Like, dude I was meeting at a bar and talked for 15 seconds, I was handing him one, and like
Nice.
it led to me meeting the person who was my agent, the person who was my manager.
Wow.
It led to like two roles in other films. Like, it just opened so many doors. It was an expensive
Wow.
trip, but like,
What an investment for
yeah,
sure, right?
exactly.
That's awesome. So, I mean, would you say that that's like, a good investment for somebody who maybe doesn't necessarily see themselves as having an extra so and so many, so much money to be able to fly out there and do it? Do you think that it would be worth for somebody to pursue?
Maybe it depends. It was a lot easier for me because I was
Mm-hmm.
involved with one of the projects that was there. Um,
Mm.
yeah, I'd imagine from the outside looking in, it's probably a lot more difficult to get
Mm.
into the events and get into the parties and stuff like that without someone on the inside.
Mm.
Um, but I mean, where there's a will, there's a way, ultimately, at the end of the day. So if someone goes there with their head down and just, I mean, the sidewalks are literally, everyone has to walk on the sidewalk. Like, I don't know if you've ever been to Sundance, but it's like
Haven't, yeah.
it's like a very small town. Like, there's no backdoor entrances, there's no
Mm-hmm.
anything like that. It's literally just like wide open. Everyone's walking on the sidewalks, but
Wow.
there's a ton of people, and you never know who you'll run into.
Mm. That's awesome. So would you recommend maybe somebody who, where it's outside of Sundance, maybe as an outsider there, going to some of the maybe a little bit lower A level, B level, maybe upper B level festivals and
Maybe.
trying to network there?
Yeah, I think I see that's the other thing. It's like at these upper B level festivals, you have
Mm-hmm.
like maybe five people who are like
Mm-hmm.
really doing what they're
Yeah.
saying they're doing, and like
Mm.
150 who are just like,
Gotcha. Mm.
who are not, simply said. So yeah, you hit this weird middle ground, and festivals are very weird to me still, because a lot of them feel like money grabs,
Mm.
and then there's others that I feel like are beneficial to the community or the filmmaker. Um,
Mm.
so yeah, I mean, oh man, Josiah, don't get me started. That's like a big like trigger point with me, is all of these like, and like, I don't mean to offend you or anyone
No,
who
you're
listens
fine.
to this show, so you can cut this out. But there's these like, what they are is they're like online film festivals that just pop
Mm-hmm.
up and ask for 20 or 30 bucks, and
Mm-hmm.
that is screwing the filmmaker. That is,
Yeah.
they get no value out of that other than
Mm.
being able to tell their friends, oh yeah, I got accepted to the big city film festival, but really it's an online festival, and the person that set it
Yeah.
up lives in some apartment in North Dakota, and
Mm-hmm.
like, they know what the person in North Dakota is smart, because they know that if, some new filmmaker tells his friends, oh yeah, I got into the LA Film Festival or whatever, and like,
Oh.
they don't know the difference. They think it's Sundance. They think it's
Mm.
the Sundance of LA,
Mm.
but like, I don't know, man. It's blatantly a cash grab, and I'm
Yeah.
surprised that it's lasted this long and people still buy into it. That's
Mm.
just my
Mm.
hot take, maybe. I think it's a pretty common take, but I might be an outlier, I guess.
No, that's definitely something that I've come across here too recently in kind of the film festival stage of with the cold season,
Mhm.
where I connected with you as well.
Yeah.
So that's definitely, yeah. I mean, there's so many like little award shows that are based halfway across the world with American names, where it's really it's a like you're saying, cash grab,
Yeah.
which is a shame because there's so many legitimate film festivals too.
There's so many
Um,
good small ones and so
yeah.
many good mid-level ones, and then
Mm.
like the online ones are really the ones that are steering the industry or the perspective of it right now. So
Yeah.
whatever we're not going to be able to do to change it, it really comes down to Film Freeway cracking down on the people
Mm,
abusing that system. But
mm.
like that's the hard thing is like they make money from it, so
Yeah, yeah,
you
yeah.
turn a blind eye. I'm just
Mhm.
screwing every relationship that I could ever have with anyone right now.
Well, I think the important takeaway here for anybody who's watching or listening to this is really do your homework on these film festivals because
For
there are
sure.
a lot of small ones, even some like first year ones that are worth submitting to, depending on your film festival strategy. But one really has to do one's homework and especially look at where it's showing, if it's showing, because the pictures can be very deceptive. Sometimes, it says, it looks like it's a screening in front of hundreds of people, but those are really just stock images,
Mhm.
and it says online venue. So one really has to do your due diligence there to make sure that when submitting to ones that one really wants to be a part of, you know. So I mean, I totally get that. And I think that's something very valuable that people can take away from this too.
Totally. Yeah.
Well, so I'd say here, more recently, you've become quite the prolific director as well, or sorry, producer as well.
I was
Um,
about to say,
Yeah, I was like, what?
that's your
Producing, especially producing 3 feature films here in the last 18 months alone. Why the pivot? What drew you to the production side of filmmaking instead of just being in front of the camera?
honestly, I didn't see myself acting 10 years from now.
Hmm,
But I love films and I love business. So it was an easy pivot. I can see myself doing this for forever. Um, and,
nice.
I've had the pleasure of working on some great projects. I'm about to sign on to another one this week that's shooting next January.
Oh,
Um,
congratulations.
Thank you. It should be all right. It's, I mean, I don't want to hype it up too much or screw the
Uh-huh.
pooch, but it's probably the best script I've ever read. Um,
Nice.
so I'm really, really
That's
excited.
awesome.
Um, it's just hard. I mean, I've been doing this professionally for 7 years now, so it's like hard to
Hmm.
talk about something or be super excited about something before the pen is to paper. Um, but I feel pretty confident with this. I've talked to all the people on the team so far, and
Nice.
they all seem pretty confident as far as having me on board. So
Ah.
I'm like super excited about that one. That's solely because of the script. It has no names attached, like nothing.
Mm.
It's 100% a script play.
Wow.
Um, but then like also just like doing things independently, like producing these comedy specials, like myself and another person I know, like we're just going in on it together. Um, and yeah, and then just, keeping my eyes on the swivel, helping out friends wherever I can. Um, it's really this whole industry is a long-term play, right? So you can't
Hmm.
be so quick to just money grab.
Mm.
So I'm looking at how does my decision today play into what I'm doing, what I want to do 10 years from now, and it's all based on that.
Wow, that's awesome. It's great to have that kind of, strategy going into it, knowing kind of where you're headed, or at least like the direction that you're going. That's obviously a really quality thing. I think that's great. What do you like? So, about producing and stuff. Is your main role in producing these films getting the funding for it, securing that, or do you focus more on the logistics, or where do you kind of come into that equation?
I'm mostly doing a lot of line stuff, people, places, things. I've done some financing, some raising, putting together pitch materials, that type of stuff. But really just like anywhere where I can help, all the way down to making coffee runs or restocking Crafty.
Mm.
Um, it's all about team. It's all about all of that stuff. So for
Mm.
example, this film that's shooting next January, the, and I think that this speaks volumes to my theory of how I want to treat everyone from top to bottom on set. A grip from a film that I produced almost 2 years ago was the
Mm.
one that recommended me for this job
Oh,
because
wow.
his friend, yeah, exactly, his friend had this script and was going out to get money, and the
Hmm.
group said, "This is the guy that you want to do this." And to me was just like
Wow.
grips are like you talk to anyone and like if you can find like 5 other producers who can name their whole G&E team on their last
Hmm.
project, like I would probably be pretty surprised. But like,
Mm.
I can tell you, probably everyone who's ever G&E'd for me. Like, and that's
Wow.
like, at the end of the day, like we're all, this is a people industry.
For sure.
Things couldn't happen without people, and they need to be valued and respected as such, and not just seen as their value is has nothing to do with how much they're getting paid or what they are
Mm.
in the line item, right? And I think that that's
Absolutely.
where the disrespect happens on the bigger films. And I hope that one day when I'm doing bigger films, I still know everyone who G&E'd for me, right? Like that's,
That's amazing.
eh,
Yeah.
but yeah, that will
Mm.
tell you a lot about what connections can do for you.
For sure. Yeah, and just, last week my conversation with Silvio too, that was also something that stood out, is that it's really these soft skills, the remembering people's names, one's character and integrity and working with them, keeping one's promises and not just forgetting about people as soon as the film is finished. It's those things that really are setting people apart now, and I think that's an amazing thing.
Sure.
And more than necessarily even talent in some cases, a lot of people prefer to work with somebody that they know and have had a good experience with, have a good friendship and relationship with, because of those things, because they know, okay, this person's going to be honest, they're going to be trustworthy, they're going to be there when they say they're going to be there. And those things, it's incredible how big of a difference that makes.
For sure.
So what really struck me as I was kind of looking, as you were kind of listing what you had done and what you worked on, especially, as far as like producing and stuff, what really struck me was the amount of funding that you were able to raise. I mean, $500,000 over 3 projects, right? And these were all in the last 18 months, so a lot happening very, very quickly. I would love to know, for directors, I mean, even like me, who are used to really tight budgets, I mean, me personally, just coming from directing short films, how does one transition to budgets? I mean, these budgets of like $300,000 or more. What is that transition like?
That's like such a loaded question. It's like it's what I have found on bigger budget projects is that you essentially are just getting the same that you're getting on lower budget projects, just
Mhm.
for a longer amount of time, right? So
Mm.
instead of having to rush and shoot everything in 8 days, suddenly you have 30 something days to shoot that, right? Majority of the people are still
Makes
getting paid
sense.
the same. Majority of the people are going to be like the same skill level as the quick, easy, low budget, micro budget projects. It's just going to be for a much longer amount of time. Um, I mean, to do a 30-day shoot, to do like a 30-day IATSE SAG shoot, like that's gonna take you up to
Mhm.
500,000, right? But if you're trying to
Wow.
keep the crew non-union, and even, I mean, cast are gonna get paid the same whether they're union or not on a project that
Mhm.
budget anyways, right? So it's like
Right.
that doesn't make a huge difference. The the thing that you'll notice is the difference in the crew, though. So
Really?
yeah, yeah. I mean, there were some luxuries that we get on bigger projects like
Mhm.
Moondance. We got to shut down the street.
Nice.
Uh, we got to bring on a ton of people. I know one of the really fun, crazy days we had 12 dancers, 2 marching bands. Uh,
Wow.
like got to shoot in a movie theater. Uh, I'm trying to think of what else we did that day. It was all steady cam. I know that's not a huge that's not as huge as having 200
Mhm.
people. Oh, we had a choir.
Wow.
Um, yeah, it's a really fun stuff like that's really fun, but it's
Mm.
also like it's expensive to do.
I bet.
Uh,
Yeah.
so yeah.
Mm. So how would you advise somebody to like walk in your footsteps? Somebody who wants to, maybe somebody like me going from short
Yeah.
films to directing a feature film, wanting to increase that budget. They know, especially going from short films to a feature, you need more time. Like you were saying, you have that same day rate, so pretty much the same thing, just stretched
Yeah.
out over a longer amount of time. How do you transition to that? Where do you get that money from?
So I think it all starts with a really good deck. So being able to sum up what you want to do in a really nice, like if you're good with InDesign, like that's going to be a
Mm.
huge value add to any production that you're going to do. Script is going to come in a close second behind the pitch. I, I mean, bad films get made every day, so it's not solely dependent on the script,
Mhm.
right? But I mean, outside of that, it's going to be who you know and what you know. So it's like going into it, you may only be able to get money from your friends and family, and like that's a challenge. But you also may know someone who's done a bunch of films and may have investor connections that may want to do more investing or may want to do smaller investing, um, or that type of deal. It's really just being able to critically analyze those connections and how they translate to the budget. And like
Mm.
it's not putting a dollar on people necessarily, like, oh yeah, Aunt Becky can give me $2,000. It's like, but why would she? It's pitching everyone
Mm.
like they're an investor and like they're investing in
Mm.
something, because ultimately, like for you, for example, like it would be your first feature. Like this is going to be like your calling card to make other projects and to
Mm.
get more investments in the future. So like that would be, I think, a good angle for you to pitch versus like, oh yeah, I got the best script in the world. We got Bruce Willis for a day. We only need $1 million to do that.
Mm.
We got, yeah, like that just, you're not going to get $1 million from your friends and family, and you're not going to be
Mm.
connected enough in the industry to find a bunch of money to do a Bruce Willis action movie. So,
Nice.
but you
So,
might, right? There's like
yeah, right. Absolutely.
there's deviations that happen all the time, and from what we think is the normal path. And I think a good example is like what I've done and what I'm continuing to do is just keep your head down, make movies. Like
Mm.
I didn't go to film school. I didn't do a lot of stuff that you normally see these Hollywood producers doing, but I
Mm.
think and I hope that I'm still on the same track as them, because I would love to eventually work in a studio one day and get to make really cool projects and get to work with fun budgets. So then, like, oh man, Johnny can't get to set today. It's like, all right, well, go send the PA in our fleet of Escalades to go pick Johnny up. Like, it's not a problem.
Mm. Nice.
It's just a more critical thinking position when you're producing at that level.
Mm.
So yeah,
That's awesome.
learning right now from the School of Indie Film and the real difference. Real,
Hey, absolutely. Any way that we can help you, it's no, I mean, it's so when you got like these investors and stuff on board, was it like equity back end points, or how did you guys do that? Were all
yeah,
investors equity investors? Was it just,
it's
kind of
all
contributing to it, or?
so I can't speak to any one specific project, but it's all going to be equity back end stuff with points and normal
Cool.
payback, like
Hmm.
standard stuff. Um, yeah, I mean that's just the normal thing. It's very infrequent that you'll find someone just donate you money. Um,
Great.
I do recommend, obviously, people try to at least plan on raising 80% privately and trying to get that last 20
Mm.
from like crowdfunding, because that's people that you don't have to pay back, which can
Mm.
help you down the road, and it frees up a little more equity to where if you find an actor or DP or someone that you want to kind of give a little bit of back into for taking a little bit less of a rate than they normally would have charged. I think that that's kind of a good strategic play.
Very cool. I like that. That's a cool way to kind of combine the different funding methods and, still maintaining leverage, still, giving people, giving back to people for helping you out. Like, I think that's a neat kind of combination of the different funding methods too. I like that. That's good. I have to remember that.
Yeah.
So, what would so kind of switching gears here. With over like 5 billion, I think at last count, and counting videos on YouTube, and more than 400 hours of video uploaded every minute, rising above that noise, like kind of like with the film festivals, with all these things, finding the ones that are right, rising above the noise with your content, is increasingly important, and a major part of that is knowing how to market yourself and build an audience around your work. So, I mean, Chase, you've built an audience of over 150,000 people. Any practical advice of building an audience of your own? What worked for you?
Um, so I'm a big believer that everyone out there has an audience, right? There's
Mm.
someone out there who cares about what you're doing. And now maybe one person, it may be 10 million people. You don't know until you put yourself out there. But I think the first big step is going out there and finding those people. So like
Mm,
if you make content uh, that, for example, people who watch, indie film hustle or whatever would like,
mm,
then maybe it's a good idea for you to spend a day DMing people who follow Indie Film Hustle on Instagram. Hey, I have this thing. I'd like for you to check it out, um, and let me know what you think. And really personalize it. Don't get into the
mm,
copy paste industry. Like there's too many
mm.
like
Yeah.
spammers on Instagram.
Mm,
But I do think that there is still like a lot of value to people in terms of going out there and finding your consumer, because ultimately they know other people who consume that and can share it with them if you're making something good enough.
that's awesome. That's really good. I know something that I wanted to include in here. I don't know why I didn't, but somehow it slipped my mind until just a couple seconds ago. Was your like personal philosophy of just kind of making films, right?
Yeah,
Of dreaming big and just making films. Do you want to talk about that for a second? Just kind of explain how that kind of relates to filmmakers watching this.
for sure. I think that there are a lot of people that have a lot of excuses. People who may have raised $8,000 when they needed to raise
Mm,
25 to do a shoot, and it's like they just sit there and complain and make up excuses
mm,
for why they can't do it instead of using what's in front of them and putting their head down and finding a way. Um, and you have to be all right with compromise, and you have to be all right with giving up, some creative liberties, but ultimately you'll get your thing made and you'll show people that you can do it versus never doing it and people don't even know what you're capable of. Um,
mm,
I think that that's why people start off doing low budget films, because that's the first thing that you're able to say in the next pitch is, I did this film for this much. Imagine what I could do with more money, right?
mm.
And then
Right.
and then you're James Cameron getting $1 billion to make 25 Avatar films.
Mm,
Uh, and there's no more money. Like there's nothing
mm,
more. There's nothing better that he can do at that point. It's not like he can come back with Avatar 24 and be like,
mhm.
imagine if I had $6 billion to make this. Then how big that movie would be. It's
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Mm. So it's those like kind of stepping stones, but built on execution, right? Like it's important strategizing, and I think it's cool. So I didn't know. So you studied like business stuff too? That was kind of your
Yeah. So
area of.
yeah, man, I bounced around. So I was going.
Mhm.
So I got into Columbia. I was gonna go there for film. The old girlfriend got pregnant. Went to Miami. Um, was like a geology major for a hot second. Uh, transferred to, okay, because the first thing that came to my mind is, man, now that I got a kid, I need a reliable job, and geology came to mind, which I don't
Mhm.
know if you know anything about geology. There are none. Like in the state, like there's no jobs in geo. Like you can be a consultant for like real
That's
estate,
hilarious.
but like yeah, there's no job in geology. But I loved
It's
it.
like one step lower than starving artist is starving geologist.
Yeah,
It's
exactly.
just.
Like, man, just I no, but I mean I love like rocks and formations, and I learned a lot, and like I'd love to travel to like the national parks. I did a big project on the Badlands and was really passionate. I was really passionate about geology, but then I woke up and realized what I wanted to do.
Hmm.
So let's see. Then I transferred to from Miami University to University of Cincinnati. Was a comm major there, and yeah, dropped out with four classes to go
Oh,
to
I'm sorry.
making movies. Oh, don't be sorry. To keep making movies, and it worked out.
That's
So
awesome. That's awesome. Yeah, I mean,
yeah,
I think one really has to pursue what one feels like one's here to do. What one feels so passionate about doing, whether that's geology or or making films. I think that there's nothing there's always room for somebody who's passionate about what they're doing.
Mhm.
So I think that that's definitely I think that's definitely a good pivot to doing that, you know. And I think you're already being rewarded for your efforts, and I'm really excited to see kind of where you continue to go with this, because I mean, I really think you're just getting started, so it's definitely exciting to see.
That would be sad if this was the end of my career.
That was supposed to be, you know, encouraging, you know, I don't know, a little pat on the back, but but no, you're right. You're nowhere near not even the middle point of your career, right? You're just getting started. This is just the beginning.
Yeah.
No, I'm so happy for you, man. So pumped for you. I think it's gonna be great.
Appreciate that.
That's awesome. Well, I mean, as we bring this in for a landing, is there any other advice that you have for any filmmakers watching? Anything that you think that they would do well? Any advice that they would do well to follow as they continue pursuing their dreams?
Yeah,
Sorry.
I mean, people just need to help each other on their projects. It can't always be about money all the time, right? It's like maybe once a month, you and your friends get together and you exchange work and just make stuff. And like maybe one month you're the director, the next month you're gripping, and then the next month you get the DP, and then you kind of become this jack of all trades, this Swiss Army knife. And yeah. Also, if you're thinking about moving out to LA, think about getting into the sound department, because I've never heard anyone move out to LA and be like, I want to be the best sound mixer ever. And everyone's high, like literally that's the only position I've ever seen that is always paid. Like I don't know any sound mixer who shows up to set for free. Like they're all like, even on unpaid, like low indie budget sets, always paid. So
you got a point.
If you want to move out to LA to be the next best actor, at least know how to mix sound on set, because you'll be able to pay your bills and still probably make a lot of decent connections in the industry. Just you know, some advice from little old me.
Well, I think that's great. I think that's a wonderful place to bring this in for a landing. Again, thank you so much, Chase, for joining me here on the show today, and for being a part of this. I love hearing kind of, you know, your journey, your process, what you've done to get where you are, and where you've headed, or where you're headed. See, I just broke up my nice little rhythm. It was such a nice little outro there. So excited for you, man, and really so grateful to have you on the show here.
Awesome. Yeah. Thanks for having me on, and looking forward to meeting you in person here in a couple weeks.
Absolutely. And definitely same. Wherever you are watching or listening to this right now, thank you so much for tuning in. Do consider joining us live. We do this every single week. Do join us live. You can be part of the conversation in the pre-show and the after show, and getting some producing wisdom here from the amazing one and only Chase Crawford. So thank you guys. Thank you everybody for tuning in, and I will catch you guys on the flip side.